Welcome, listeners, to Ano Talk, all things anodizing, where we, members of the Aluminum Anodizers Council, come together with experts from all across the anodizing industry to talk about, you guessed it, anything and everything related to anodizing. Today, your hosts are Nathan Sheffield and Mark Spencer, and we have the pleasure of speaking to an industry expert, a fellow AAC member, and Director of Finishing Systems at Tri-Mer Corporation. Today's podcast, we will be interviewing this industry expert, Gary Kriesch.
Hey, thanks, Nathan. Appreciate you kicking off the podcast today. Good morning, Gary. How are you today?
Good morning.
First of all, to our listeners out there, my name is Mark Spencer, sales manager here at Akron Anodizing up here in beautiful Plymouth, Minnesota. And here it is in May, and it's going to reach a high of 60 degrees. So for you people down in the southeast, sorry it's so hot. Anyway, Gary, where are you broadcasting from today?
I'm in the office today in Owasso, Michigan.
Okay, so are you having a day above 60?
Yes, I think we're supposed to hit, in the 80s. Unbelievable.
Fantastic. I'd also like to compliment you, as our viewers can't see you and I can. I have that privilege. You have a beautiful stash. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, I grew this after I graduated high school just to piss off my mother, and I've had it since I was 18 years old.
Oh, outstanding. Beautiful. So, hey, Gary, if you don't mind, this is, we're meeting the industry figure. We're meeting you today. Tell us a little bit about your history in the industry.
I got started in the industry as originally I started out being a design engineer, vocational drafting teacher, and a tool designer. And from there, I moved into the power industry and worked at one of the largest engineering houses in the United States, where we had about 5,000 people, and we were overseeing all the consumers' power in Detroit Edison. And my project was River Rouge Power Plant. From there, I went on to a facility at Dow Chemical, where I was a facilities engineer, and we designed and built the systems inside the plant and installed them. And from there, we built a waste acid neutralization plant, which was supposed to produce 1 pound of product. And we did that 2 months early without the water test and got pink slip because we got done early. So from there, I went to the Walgren Company and spent the next 35 years doing anodizing equipment, starting out with the engineering department and then moving into the manufacturing and then moving into sales. And left the Walgren Company in about 2 years ago and joined up with Tri-Mer and kind of doing the same thing.
Outstanding. So needless to say, it's safe to say that you've probably seen a lot of different anodized lines.
I've seen a few.
You've seen a few, probably in varying lengths. I would think also.
Yeah, I think actually yours is the longest one we've done. Yours was about 42 foot. And we've done many modifications in tanks and such for your facility.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Who is your alma mater?
Oh, you mean from college?
Yes.
Ferris State College, or Ferris State University today. So.
I'm sorry?
Ferris State University today.
Okay, very good. What's your thoughts about AAC? You're involved with AAC.
Very pro. I honestly wouldn't be working today if it weren't for the AAC. And I say that in a sense that what I've gained from the anodizing industries, being involved with the Aluminum Anodizers Council, the Aluminum Extruders Council, it's like a family. It's like a family, and the conferences are more like a reunion than a conference. It's so giving. It's so it's what keeps me going. A lot of the people that I've met, I could tell you stories all day long, but the people there are so willing to share and to. I'll go to a conference and we'll be sitting in a bar having a few drinks, and one of my customers will walk by and I'll introduce him to another customer, and and they'll have a chat, and he'll walk away, and the guy will say, hey, that guy just saved me $5,000. You know, and the sharing is what nets it all together and makes it special.
So you're talking about the networking, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, Gary, because once you get the smell of caustic or the etch tank, or you get a little fume off the anodized tank, I mean, it just gets inside you, man. It's tough to leave this industry.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So with your experience, what bit of information would you share with someone that is running an anodized line? Or no, I'm sorry, let's back up. Thinking about designing an anodized line, what little nugget would you share with them?
Well, the biggest thing that I've learned over my years is there are almost no two the same. You know, they're all unique to one another. I mean, you know, you would think if you built one and you had a cookie cutter, they could just, you know, punch them out. But that's not the case. There are configurations for the workflow. There are configurations for the size and the materials that you're handling. I mean, we've worked with stuff as low as a 100 milliliter tank to, you know, something as big as yours, which is 42 feet long, 7.5 feet deep, you know, 5 feet wide. You know, that's a pretty huge range. And a lot of the what used to be the most popular size was a 4x4x4, and it worked with a small pre-piped operation. But from there, it just expands, you know, to whatever size you need to fit. And the biggest challenge that I see is, like, we'll get a job shop customer coming in here, going to do some job shop work. And I'm telling you, picking the right size tank for that job is difficult, because no more than you get it all designed for a 5-footer or for a 4-foot line, a 5-foot part comes along, and now you got, you know, your SOL, you know, you got to build something new. So that's the challenge. And the other thing is that, you know, for years and years and years, I told my customers that, hey, we can put this line in. It's going to last you 20 to 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's pretty reasonable. You know, that's a pretty reasonable lifetime, you know. Well, then a few years ago, one of my customers took out a 35-year-old line. We reinstalled it and put it back together, ran it for another 11 years. It's now 46 years old. And it's going through the revamp for the third time. 46-year-old equipment. When I walked in there, I said, can I take some pictures? And they said to me, why would you want pictures of this old stuff? And I said, well, there, you got my pretreatment scrubber over there. You got my anodized scrubber over there. You lost the bright dip scrubber. And these things, 41 years later, are still kicking. And to me, that's an impressive statement. You know, I mean, when I used to sit down with a customer and say, you know, you got to think about this, because we're looking, you know, 20, 25 years down the road, and there's a lot of things that could change between now and then.
That's right.
And the point is that was only half the way there.
That's right.
So,
you know, Gary, that comment you made earlier about you designed it for 4 and now you come up with 5.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely. That's the way it is. So
we were doing one up in your neck of the woods and a little bit northwest of you, and we were trying to figure out how to get these parts in this tank, and we ended up making a tank that was 8x8, and the parts went in there vertically rather than horizontally.
Right.
And you know, the way that you make the most cost-effective anodizing line is you reduce the surface area of the tank. So if you had an 8x8 rather than a 4x4, it grows the cost of the line.
That's right.
Because you're paying on ventilation costs on the surface area, you're paying on air agitation, and you're paying on, you know, volume in terms of gallons for cooling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So last question, Gary. At the end of the day, when you're not designing the anodized lines, when you're not thinking about anodizing, what do you do to unwind?
We have a cottage up at the lake, and we go to the lake and chill out.
Wonderful. Now, are you just putting your feet in the water? You got a boat? You fishing? What are we?
All of the above.
Okay.
Hunting, fishing, boating, skiing, the whole nine.
Yeah. Do you have as good a fish in Michigan as we do here in Minnesota?
No, we don't have as good a fish, but we have a fair amount.
Okay. There's nothing like walleye. Anyway, Gary, we certainly do a thank you for your time today, and looking forward to hearing your podcast later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, listeners, and be sure to tune in next time on Ano Talk, all things anodizing.
All things anodizing. Yeehaw.
Thank you.
See you.